getting into your passion and your studies in terms of chiropractic medicine and why you don't call it chiropractic medicine, I'm very curious about that. Can we talk about the history of it?
So 1895 was when chiropractic more or less was coined as a profession. Before that, there's many studies and many even hieroglyphic kind of approaches of, people working on the spine. Even back to the Egyptians, there was always the working on the spine and looking. So it's an ancient knowledge, but the term chiropractic, some people used to pronounce it chiropractic. The practice of chi, so chiropractic. It also means chiro means handedness, chirality. So there's a lot of misnomers that go into the word itself. So back when it started, and this is going to be a little bit, and a lot of chiropractors even don't notice, I was in this seminar where Dede Palmer was who developed this concept. He wrote all these books about it.
Who's Dede Palmer?
Dede Palmer in Davenport, Iowa, was the one who coined the term and also created more or less the profession.
Okay.
And Harvey Lillard was the very first coined chiropractic patient who said he couldn't hear. Out of one ear, he got an adjustment and he could hear again. And then chiropractic was born, more or less. And then people from all over the U.S., this was in 1895, who were deaf, would actually go to Davenport, Iowa, thinking, oh my God, I'm going to be cured from death, And that wasn't the case for everybody. Some people did, find relief and others didn't. But it was interesting how that started. But anyways, Dede Palmer wrote these books as to how he even came about this whole idea. And he hid them. He wrote them and he hid them like with concrete walls in this school. And in the 80s, they were going to put elevator in this school. And it's like, oh, we got to get rid of this wall. And then they broke through it and they found these books. So in the books, it wrote exactly how he got the vision. And he got them from entities that would come to him. And he named them and taught him exactly how to look at the spine, how to look at the nervous system. But if you think about it, there's a reason why he hid that, because back in those days, if you kind of said these entities, and yet you're trying to take care of people, they'll probably think you're crazy. But I think he knew, like, it will be found in the future.
That's what I was wondering. I was wondering why he hid them, but that makes sense that a lot of people would shun that.
And a lot of chiropractors don't even know this concept, but it was brought up at this conference, and the books were there, and it was really interesting how, and can we say aliens? Can we say just entities or angels? Whatever you might want to term it. It was written that that's how he got the wisdom. And then it came on working on the nervous system, working with the spine. We always say, if your nervous system or your spinal cord was in your face, you'll take better care of it. But it just happens to be in the spine. So, and then it was just all about literal brain body, but beyond that, spiritual connection, to the point that they almost made chiropractic a religion. It was really interesting. There was many chiropractors at the time, one of the first classes, that wanted to make it a religion because it talked about what we call the universal intelligence, this intelligence that permeates the universe that we're a subset on. And what keeps us alive is what we call an innate intelligence, which is different from an inanimate object versus a live, human or any living thing. So that's, I think, what differentiated things. And from the beginning, there was always the thought from the medical approach. And because chiropractic started by taking a lot of what they called medical rejects back in the days. And many chiropractic, even hospitals, they would call them, would take medical rejects, meaning that people that didn't respond to traditional medicine or any medical intervention. So it was really, really interesting looking at it from that perspective and how that came about. That's why we don't call it chiropractic medicine, because that's medical. Medicine in its own term, right? It's something external. One of the things we learned very early in school, it's ADIO, which is from above. The intelligence that heals you comes from above. down, inside, and out, expressed in life.
I love that.
So ADIO,
yeah.
yeah. So yeah, that's kind of why that holistic approach was initiated from the beginning. And yeah, there's many concepts that go into that.
That's really cool. So I actually find that there are still some parallels. Like, people don't look at, unfortunately, for many reasons. I think it's just given the way that we are societally brought up, but people don't look at the chiropractic practice as medicine either, or as like healing as a mainstream healing practice. It's almost like the secondary or tertiary response, unfortunately. And it's interesting because we had talked about this even before this year, which is something that really resonated with me as this year came up in particular. We talked about the fact that like the chiropractic practice was used as one of the primary healing mechanisms and modalities during the early 1900s, 1918 flu pandemic. And I really, like, even before this year hit, like, that stood out to me for many reasons. And for one of the main reasons in particular is because I am such a devout, like, believer in the holistic healing approach. Like, I believe that we are able to, I mean, we see it in smaller cases, we've seen it in bigger cases. If you study like even Joe Dispenza and all of those amazing minds and people who have followed him, you see that you are able to heal serious injuries naturally if you have the mindset to do it, number one. So, and you get all of the external hints to do it. You know the tools, or you are supported by those either the environment or the people around you, and then you take the action. You have the motivation to take the action, and you see through. We live in a culture, I think, where we are like, I want it now and I want to heal. But when you said to me that the chiropractic modality was actually used as one of the primary resources to heal the flu in the early 1900s, I was like, I need to hear more about this. And I do think a lot more people need to hear more about this and the why. So if you would indulge us all in that little tidbit of history, please.
So it's interesting. And now, obviously, I have to say this with caution because of this actually happened, chiropractors that were sharing what I'm about to share now were getting in trouble because they were saying like, oh, you're saying that you can cure COVID or something, and or you can, I can't even say that chiropractic can boost your immune system. I will get in trouble.
Interesting.
Things like that. And many other practitioners from different holistic fields can't say certain things. That being said, though, from a historical perspective, 1918 was the flu pandemic. Millions and millions of people died in a very short period of time. So what was really interesting, though, there was an observational rate of death component in different states, where you would see the rate of death of people going under traditional medical approach, meaning you had the flu back then, you would go to a medical hospital and you would undergo the procedures or the therapies, and your rate of death would be whatever it would be, right? Versus you would go to a chiropractor and the population did that, then the rate of death would be so and so. And it was such lower,
Really?
And it was so much so that it caught the attention of many states looking at this, because at the time, chiropractic wasn't licensed in many states until this observation came about. And so 1918, for many states, the flu pandemic and the chiropractic success in taking care of that allowed it to be licensed in many states.
So that was the reason for it to become much more notorietable.
Exactly. Yeah, it was more like legitimate. It was like, okay, it's now licensed. It just gave it that push in many states. In some states, it was already licensed, and some it was kind of like petitioned. But this one was like, okay, yeah,